Everybody, hospitality friend Glenn here. Listen, we already know Actable gives you the power to profit, but now they're giving you more actionable insights to drive that profitability. Do me a favor, take a moment and check out hoteldata.com. You're getting set for budget season, right? And this new benchmarking data is going to help compare your hotel's performance for the rest of 2025 and into 2026. Please check out hoteldata.com or the classic actable.com. Have a great day and enjoy the show. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for tuning into another No Vacancy. I'm Glenn Hausman. We got Anthony Melchiorri back in the house today. Anthony, great to see you. What were you out in your European villa all summer or
Great
something?
great to be seen. I am as if anybody follows me, they would call me stealth right now.
I know.
And anytime and any I'm busy, I'm speaking, I'm flying around the country, but I'm keeping everything low key.
That's true.
Um, big things are about to happen, so I'm very
He's
low key.
and he's definitely not operating as a hospitality operative for the U.S. government overseas. That's
How do you
don't.
know?
I don't even know why people out there are thinking that because it's
How do
just
you
not.
know? How do you know I'm not? If I was, you wouldn't know.
That's true. All right, so today I'm excited, Anthony, because we're going to be featuring a couple of gentlemen that we have not yet had on the show. Could you imagine? We're coming on 1,000 shows, and somehow we missed these guys. But we're going to make up for it today. I'm talking about, of course, Mr. Blair Wills, CEO of StepStone Hospitality, and Mr. Michael Broadhurst, Chief Operating Officer. Gentlemen, great to see you guys. How are you today?
Great. How are you? Good to see you, Glenn, and good to see you, Anthony.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So I hope you all had a very good summer season. Labor Day is in the past. And Blair, my first question to get this thing started is how you feeling going into fall conference season?
We're excited. The year in the summer seems to have flown by, and we're a couple weeks into budget season and planning for 2026, which is exciting, and conferences as well. So we're looking forward to a busy and productive fourth quarter.
Uh, Anthony?
Are you seeing the conferences bear fruit? Or are they changing, or are they still kind of the same, or are you finding that's where you find your business and that's where you make connections? Is that the really
I think it's a combination. I think that the conferences are productive, and I think it's always great for us to reconnect with everybody that we maybe haven't seen or talked to recently. And but so I think it's productive. But I think a majority of our business development is happening in between them, and we're connecting on a regular basis with the majority of either our clients or potential clients. But they're definitely productive, and yeah, worth the visit. So.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, StepStone Hospitality is an awesome management company. Guys, you got something like 250 years executive experience, which is pretty awesome stuff out there. They're also a restaurant management company out there. And Michael, um, it's great to see you out there on the road. What's the general tenor that you're feeling out there, and what are you seeing at your hotels?
Yeah, and thanks again for having us on the show. Really, the downward pressure on expenses and labor is still there. The brands are increasingly, increasing the expectation. And it's still a challenging environment out there. And for us, the most important thing for us is our team. Providing the tools and resources for our team, not only our home office team, but our property team. And really ultimately comes down to accountability and results. And that's what we do is when we go to the properties, we walk the properties, we talk to our clients, we talk to the teams, and we do as best as we can to keep on pushing the needle in this ever changing and difficult environment. When RevPAR is basically, I'll call it essentially flat year over year and slightly increased projections for next year. We have to become nimble, and we have to figure out other sources of revenue, and we got to get creative and candidly get a little scrappy when we need to. So that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're doing more out the road.
so? So I have a 75-part question. We'll start with the first. Okay.
Which in itself is broken down into 37 parts. Yeah.
With having to be scrappy with the margins, and we've been here. I mean, we've been doing this a long time, guys, and we've all been here, right? When that comes down to the guest, resort fees, parking fees, maybe an increase, things like that. that's one end of it. So how are we selling that to the customer? And number two, when those margins get tighter, how do we get the general manager to perform and really feel valued and appreciated, because we know everybody from the guest to the employees feeling squeezed. So what does your company do uniquely different um, that makes the environment feel better for
Yeah,
labor?
Anthony, that's I mean, gosh, that's a great, 75-part question, but it's fantastic. I mean, first thing for us, the most important thing, and you probably can't see this, it comes down to our core values. And number one core value is hire the best people. And we solely believe that the general managers of our hotels are the CEOs of our hotels, and they have to be involved in every aspect of that operation. And our sole reason why we exist is to support the general managers and making sure that they have the supplies, IT. We've spent, a considerable investment in the last 2.5, 3 years on our IT and our tech stack. We have I want to say the best technology stack to support our general managers out there, making sure that they can perform, that they're not sitting in their office doing administrative day-to-day tasks, that they're out front facing with our customers and our associates every single day. Because like you said, as we continue to increase parking, as we continue to look for ancillary fees, it all comes down to we must provide best in class customer service. If we're not, they're going to go out the door. The guests are going to go to the competitor down the street. That's one thing that's happened in this, this environment, that, you have to recreate loyalty, not only on the associate level, you have to recreate loyalty to the guests again.
But I'm
And that all
preparing,
comes down.
I talk a lot to GMs, and I'm preparing actually next week to do a conference at a GM roundtable. And my number one thing, my number one slide, basically is kind of what I said to you. It's, people say it's harder today than it was when we grew in the business. And I disagree with that. I say it's much harder. And I actually get a little bit more graphic than that. But I think it's self-inflicting wound, and I think you just said it. Number one core value is hire good people. But what's happening today is it's hard to find people, they're saying, even though I see people coming back in the industry, but because they have this image in the back of their mind, it's hard to find good people. They're settling for mediocrity. And we know the scariest word in our business is mediocrity, because mediocrity isn't memorable. So how do you prevent your GMs from doing that?
Oh, great question.
Yeah, no, look, it is a great question, and I think it's very difficult because I think you hit the nail on the head that as it's harder to find people are basically saying that, look, we can't replace that person, we're going to settle, we're not going to hold people accountable. And so, a big part of our process is making sure that we have that accountability built into it. Look, we want to develop our GMs, we want to develop our team members from within. Our focus is on growth from within and providing them those tools and resources. And that's our first approach is making sure that we're providing them those tools to succeed. But if they cannot succeed, we as a team owe it to them to hold them accountable, and they're going to learn from that. And if they can't learn, then we've got to figure out what's a better role or what's a better way to go on that front.
Yeah.
Right.
And the big,
And I think people are finding that it's better, even though we're all short-staffed, it's better to be short-staffed than to spend 3 hours in human resources with someone that's not performing.
Like, point. I go.
100%. Yep. So yeah, and I think it's Michael talked about hiring the best people, and that's really the focus. And we've got to make sure that as we are working with our teams, we're motivating them. They've got to understand the whys behind why we're doing some of these things and how it all ties into the big picture. And that's something that we stress with our teams as we're going through our P&L reviews, talking about our strategies and our approach, because they've got to understand we're not just doing these things. There's a bigger picture from an investment. And then I just want to add too, I think we've got to figure out as an industry, how do we get people excited about hospitality as a career again? Because
Got that right.
we're adding technology, we're adding these components, but the goal then is for them to be able to spend more time with the guests, create these experiences. And I think, I don't have the answer to that. If we did have it, it would be great. But I think it starts with the schools and letting people know that there is more there's a career path within hospitality as part of that. So
Yeah, and I think that falls back into what you were saying in regards to wanting to make sure that you can grow in the organization. We have to connect the dots of this is not a job, this is a career path. And we've said this 1,000 times in 1,000 episodes that people don't typically realize there's so much more to the hospitality industry above that GM level. And I don't mean that in a class sort of way, just different types of jobs that are
yeah,
out.
I mentor a lot of people, 30, 40, 50-year-olds, 20-year-olds, right? And one of the things I say to people is don't be scared for the next step. If the next step is inside the company, that's great. If the next step is outside the company, that's great. But right now, where you have an opportunity that hasn't been seen in many, many years, that you can really go from a front desk clerk, and we're seeing it on LinkedIn. Look at LinkedIn. There's somebody who is, I won't say what hotel, but I think the vice president of PR or marketing for a major casino, and literally 9 years ago, they were a front desk clerk.
yeah.
Wow.
Where can you go from making front desk clerk money to making way over 6 figures in 9 years and have a title that will get you to the next level, right, pretty quickly? And that's one of the things that we are challenged with as a organization, as a company, is to convince people that you can make a lot of money in this industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Guys, I'm curious. I'm just sitting here thinking, we talk a lot about the property level stuff, but a lot of owners aren't necessarily hoteliers, right? They're trusting you with their investment, but they might have a whole portfolio of things and they don't really get the business. So, what's your philosophy and how do you educate the owners on how they should be thinking about this as an investment in terms of your relationship with how you manage those properties to set their expectations so you could create clear messaging and benchmarks?
No, I think that's critical, Glenn. And look, we have a 30 hotels overall, 15 different clients that we work with, and it's a wide range. We have institutional clients, we have family office, we have for first time hotel buyers that are just getting in the industry, and we always outline with our clients that look, we exist to provide our owners the results, and our focus is on meeting and exceeding their expectations. So we sit down with them and really want to understand their goals. Is it a 3-year hold? Is it we're going to hold this forever? What is their approach and what do they want to accomplish?
And that would really cage an operational philosophy with that. But sorry, please go on. I just need to teach our younger viewers what that meant. Go on.
So there is a, a difference, and provide that flexibility in regards to our approach with each different owner, and that's how we really target it. And we pride ourselves on a high level of communication, a high level of transparency, and a high attention. A low ratio of regional team members or properties to regional team members, so that we can provide that attention and provide the resources and tools. Whether it's a weekly call, some owners want a weekly call that we're on and we're discussing. Some don't need that much of a communication vehicle. So, but it's explaining and outlining, what we're seeing, what our trends are, and what we're doing. This may be happening, but what are we doing to fix it, or what are we doing to address that situation? Whether RevPAR is flat, how do we find creative ways to drive revenue through renting out parking spaces, unused spaces in the hotel, things like that, where we can work with them on that piece.
Um, where are we as far as movement, as far as either new builds, as far as rebranding, as far as capital? And I know now the season's coming in that, we're going to get together all these conferences, and we'll find out. But what are you seeing?
It's conversion season, baby. That's what they're
No, I think yeah.
No, but are you, now that they said their interest rate's going to come down maybe a little bit, and I don't know. So
No, I think, on general acquisitions and in new builds, yeah, it's been slower. I mean, we have seen some new build activity, but it hasn't been nearly as much as historics. And, I think the interest rate market and what's going on in the economy as a whole, there's been fewer deals that we've seen materialize, and the ones that have penciled have been very competitive, with multiple groups looking at those. So I think, I think we expect as as the as the sorry, I'm hearing an echo. Uh, as the uh, as the interest rates and we get into fourth quarter, that we might see some more activity on that front.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you as well, and I hope that is the case. So, you know, Michael, we're talking about investing. You had mentioned before reinvesting in that tech stack. I feel like we're at a critical juncture right now, right? So, how are you thinking about investing in that tech stack? And to make this an even harder question for you, how do you know it's the right time to invest in a particular technology? The rest of the question
Yeah.
there.
No, agreed. And I think what's out there that the elephant in the room that everybody's talking about is AI, right? How did AI impact our industry? Which you know none of us really know the full impact of what that's going to be like for years to come. But for us, we've had many long partners for years and years and years, and we went back to those partners, and we, particularly on the BI perspective, like how can we continue to, get as smart as our owners, and I want to say predict of what we're going to do, but how to continue to drill down on our analytics, and the thing of what I think makes Blair and I relationship or however you want to call it work so well, is like Blair comes up through the asset management side of the business, right? I've come up through the ops side of the business. So, we always take a look at it in the ownership lens, right? Everything we do has to have an ROI, right? Our tech stack has to have an ROI. Ultimately, how can we make our teams more productive? I don't want to give them, I'm very mindful, and unfortunately, the brands don't necessarily subscribe to the same thought process. Is I don't want to give them 5 or 7 different pieces of technology to use that doesn't interface, right? And they're had expert in these 5 or 6 different fields. We want everything to interface, and that way it's easy, right? Whether labor comes in, you're seeing it from your revenue standpoint, you're able to forecast there, you're able to budget there, and certainly on the sales and revenue front, you're able to, make very educated decisions when it comes to the revenue strategy, right? And then on the finance side, right? There's whole how do you do procurement, and how do you do those? So those are all things.
Yeah, and I think the brands do an amazing job of putting the tech stack together and making it very easy for their hotel. Psych. Okay. It's really ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous. I have a lot of words I can use that I won't. You're seeing the general manager having to do more with less. It's really more with nothing. And they're working the desk, they're working the outlets, they're working everything. And when I see, and there's a company I work with that has just really redeveloped their entire tech stack, and you see a complete change. Like accounting takes them 10 minutes as opposed to 3 hours. They're working on one platform instead of working on 10 platforms. It really is. So the ROI on tech is not always seen, because you can't really say, well, now the general manager is doing this, this, and this, so now he's more productive. It's like some of it is just you just have to have it, even if there's not an ROI on it, because it just is easier for everyone in the hotel, especially when you have less full-time employees.
Yeah, and I think, as we look at tech, our strategy has been really to focus on ways we can free up the team members to allow them to focus on GSS or provide that guest experience as we are rolling these out. It's not just rolling it out to roll it out, or to your point, there's there is a strategy behind it, so that we just don't have all these tech items and it's great. It's then so that they can focus on those pieces. And the key in all of it is the team members they still have to know their numbers. They still have to know what's going on in the hotel. The tech can't replace everything, because the GM, as Michael was saying earlier, as the CEO, needs to know what's going on. Where is he or she at from a checkbook standpoint, from a labor standpoint, on a daily basis, because that's critical. We can utilize technology, but it's meant to free them up so that they can be strategic about that and be strategic with the guest.
Anthony, you're muted.
No, and that's another interesting thing, because when I was coming up in this business, you had an accounting department and they handled everything. The checkbook, I didn't know what the checkbook was until I went into a different business, and the owner gave me 2 brown bags and said, which one do we pay today? Right. And I was like, oh my God, we have to, there's gotta be money in the checking account. Right. So that's another brain. Like you talked about asset management and operations. I was an operator my whole life. And then I became the first vice president of Tishman Asset Management in New York City. And someone said to me, you were in the hotel business, now you're in the business of hotels. A general manager has to be in the business of hotels. There's no longer can they be in the hotel business. And like, are you seeing that switch with general managers? Is it the younger general manager easier, or like is it difficult to get an older guy like me to kind of understand that?
No, I think I think we're seeing that switch. And I mean, you look at owners and people in the industry. I mean, there's access to so much data out there on an instant basis, and so the GM has to be on top of all of those different components. And I think is part of our role, and I think what we do very well, really sifting through that data in regards to, because you can get data overload. There can be so much data that it's, what do you look at? And
Yeah, paralyzing.
yeah, how do you take that data and turn it into action and turn it into results? And I think that's what we focus on with our team as we provide support to the hotels. What you're right, the GM has had to shift from what was truly just running an operation to now multiple components on the finance and really the business of hotels overall from a real estate perspective as well. How
Right.
does this tie together?
And that's been a slow bake, like the technology, like to really get general managers to be businessmen or businesswomen and not just, be nice to the guest. And that was a real shift for me. So I don't think we really went, and I know we're going to wrap up soon, but we didn't really go deep into the history of your company and how you started. And why don't we talk a little bit about that? And
Yeah, no, so we've been around since 2007. Tom Russo is our founder and executive chairman, a long history with Howard Johnson's, Ponderosa, Ground Round, restaurant side of the business as well. So we started with one
I'll
hotel.
stop you right there because Ponderosa was the best when I was a kid.
Yeah.
They got to go over there. I'm like, I get to eat steak and they bring it to my table, but we order it there. It was the coolest.
Beefsteak Charlie's, my friend. Go ahead.
Oh, dude, I missed out on the free beer, wine, and sangria. I was a little too young. All right, sorry, Blair, to deep.
No, no, all good. So yeah, so we started in 2007, started small with one hotel and have built up to 30. A lot of as Michael highlighted, our core values, they stem from Tom's history in the business and the hospitality business, and those are what we really live and breathe each and every day. And right now we're a portfolio of 30 hotels with a couple in the pipeline here in September that we should add. And we've really focused on building our team as well. I mean, we are up to over 30 full-time employees on an above property basis. So really focused on, as we grow as an organization, making sure that we're hiring team members in advance and you have those resources to facilitate that growth. That's a big focus.
So let's talk about that for a second. 30 hotels. I know what the margins are on management companies. With 30 people in the executive office, you have to have a commitment for growth, and you have to have equity somewhere to be able to fund that, because that's where most management companies go out of business, right? When they do the 30 people in the exec office, you have 30 hotels, and we're going to have that growth. So, talk through that strategy, because that's a challenging, scary strategy.
Well, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, the focus.
Also, Brian, let me just tell people, you're at that point now where you have to decide if you're going to be this size or go big, because 30 seems to be around an inflection point for management companies. Sorry, please go on.
100%.
No, and we have capacity, and our focus is on that growth, Anthony, and that's why we've structured that way, is so that we can be prepared for that continued growth. But we want to, as we grow, I mean, our focus on growth is in the right spots, and we're not focused on growing just to grow. Like, as I was saying before, our whole focus is on being able to meet and exceed our owners' expectations. And if we can't do that, I mean, we've passed up assignments because we've not felt we couldn't achieve. We felt it was an unsurmountable goal, or what was out there was not realistic. And so our focus is on growing in the right spots and growing efficiently, so that we can build long-term relationships with our owners and our clients.
Just I thought, in dealing with owners, when an owner comes from a franchise business or a, quick serve restaurant or restaurants, and they come into the hotel business, that's to me the hard shift for an owner, because they're so cost sensitive and they don't understand the profit margins of the hotel different than, restaurants. And you're smiling, so I'm almost like the nerve. And it's about revenue management and sales strategy, not about saving one penny on a pen. Do you see those challenges?
I Blair, I just want to jump in. No, it's Anthony. That's a great I guess an analogy if you want to call it that. And Tom being a lifelong restaurateur, he will always lean with restaurants first, right? He still calls our hotels units, right? And he has some basic philosophies. And we were just in the office with him this week, and he's very much a part of our strategy and our growth, but he looks at basics. Like, when we go to hotels, you walk to hotels and you do your line checks, right? And the daily report, right? And the flash report. But there's a lot of those basics that have been around for so long, what we talked about earlier about the general managers not understanding those basics, right? That we need to keep on doing. But as you mentioned, it's all about driving top line, right? How do we continue to drive top line? And that's where our technology comes in, so we can make those, informed decisions, continue to drive that top line. Because particularly on the smaller hotels, your base level is your base level. You can't really move it. You still need one person at the front desk, and a lot of our hotels are at those base levels, right? So it's all about driving that top line and being able to make those.
Yeah, I learned the hard way. The flash report is the most important report, and it's my Bible. And
Yeah.
but I won't tell you the name because you probably know his name. He's threatened to beat me up because I didn't know my numbers. One morning, he came to this hotel, very beautiful hotel in New York City, and he asked me what the average rate and occupancy was, and I was the night auditor, and I was getting my reports ready, and I usually look at that, but I hadn't gotten there yet, and exactly where we were. And I said, "I don't know, sir. Let me go look." And he goes, "If you don't know your numbers again, I'm going to."
Yep.
And I was like, "Sir, yes, sir. You can't talk that way anymore." But I will tell you, I never forgot my numbers.
Yeah.
I will tell you that Tom, it's daily that Tom is asking me questions about daily reports for hotels, right?
Yeah.
And obviously we have a team, but he's zoned into certain things on that daily report that he is looking at as that operator and as that owner's mindset, right? If your revenue is not there, your labor and your expenses have to be in line,
Mhm.
So yeah,
I still every
great.
day check out with balance and adjustments and corrections.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, awesome. I think this is probably a great place for us to wrap this out. Otherwise, we're gonna be talking for another hour. Gentlemen, any final thoughts before we wrap this up today? Michael, Blair?
No, I just want to say thank you to you guys. We really appreciate the time and having us on. And look, it's if I was to leave, I guess a final thought. We're in a people business. It's all about finding the right people, and that's our focus here, and making sure we've got the right people in the right spots here at StepStone. So,
Yeah, and likewise on that too. I mean, we're big fans of your show and what you guys are continuing to do for the industry and advocates for the industries. And thank you very much for having us. We really appreciate it.
We are the luckiest people in the world because we're in the coolest business in the world. Michael, Blair, thank you so much for being here with us.
That's
We'll
Thank
see
you,
you
guys.
next time. So, Anthony, taking a couple big messages away from today. We have to remember we're in a people business, something that we've been preaching. And another thing we've been talking about is owners and operators are feeling that vendor overload out there.
Oh my God. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I put a no vendor policy a long time ago. If I want something, I'll call you. But he said two words that I really love and that we should all have tattooed on our head if we're running businesses.
Yep.
Growth, or actually more two words, growth from within. Okay.
Yep.
That is a policy and a philosophy, but growth from within isn't finding good people and giving them challenges. Growth from within is asking those good people, "Are you okay? What's your next move? What do I need to do to prepare you? Did we give you everything you needed? Okay, I want you to have my job. I want you to get to the next level. Even if you need to leave for a little while and get more experience, you have to really want people to be successful. So because B people don't want to be around A people, and A people don't want to be around B people. So you got to hire A people and you just got to keep motivating them and keep giving them opportunities to grow and not be scared they're going to leave.
Ah, you shouldn't be scared they're going to leave. And I'll tell you what, Anthony, I'm seeing on LinkedIn a lot lately because there's a lot of jobs going on, a lot of congratulatory notes from people, from the folks that are under them that have now gotten new jobs, that are getting promoted, that are filled with joy. And
Right.
that's the kind of leadership I like to see.
And that's the only way to be, because if somebody said, well, I put so much into this person, they left. What do you think they're going to do? It's not longer 20 years and you get a Rolex. People leave, but they're going to help you, with your career, and you're going to help them. And that's how it works.
Yeah, totally. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching today. Be sure to like, share, subscribe to this video, follow us, all that kind of good stuff. And then don't forget, you've got one life. So blaze on and
Be kind to yourself.
see y'all next time. Bye-bye.